working on a drawdown plan. When the violence decreases, we can draw down those resources. But based on the discussions I've had with the governor and the AG, we can start drawing down those resources as far as those looking for public safety threats being released, and do it in the jail with much less people. So the drawdown is going to happen based on these agreements.
So he did not promise a drawdown, only to work toward a plan for one. All the same, his boss, the president, just a few words on the red carpet, seems to have put the kibosh on any drawdown, and it came after he spent the day silent on it all, leaving the spotlight entirely to Tom Homan. Here he is at his televised cabinet meeting shortly after Homan spoke.
Thank you very much, everybody.
He took no questions. He normally takes dozens, which drew attention along with this.
We're not going to go through the whole table because the last time we had a press conference, it lasted for 3 hours. And some people said he closed his eyes. Look, it got pretty boring.
No parade of cabinet members today singing his praises, and no mention at all of this or his other appearance today of DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, despite what seemed to be a thinly veiled reference from Border Czar Homan to her and the man he replaced, Gregory Bavino.
I didn't come to Minnesota for photo ops or headlines. You haven't seen me. I came here to seek solutions.
As you know, Bavino, along with everything else he did here, rarely shied away from any chance to parade before the cameras in his specially made uniforms and dressed for the occasion. The same and more can be said for Secretary Noem, who has certainly appeared in many outfits so far this year as well, and many photo opportunities, certainly. She's dressed as a cowboy, in tactical gear, as a firefighter. Today, though, for all intents and purposes, Secretary Noem was invisible. Lots to talk about tonight. More concretely and far more important to people here in Minneapolis, the federal presence is still plain to see. The 3,000 or so agents who came here have by and large not left and now will not leave, according to the president just moments ago, as we talked about. So let's talk about what's coming up. We're going to start with CNN's Caitlin Collins tonight on the disconnect between the president and his border czar. Caitlin, is it clear to you why the president didn't take questions at all today, but then just made that comment about immigration enforcement at the premiere of the First Lady's movie?
What is clear, Anderson, is it's extremely rare for the president to have opportunities like he did today. I've never seen him at a cabinet meeting, especially where he did not take questions from reporters after. Typically, you go in there knowing it's going to be a 3-hour affair because not only is he going around the room like he typically does to each and every cabinet official, he also normally takes questions anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes at times. Today, he obviously skipped over several cabinet officials, including the DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, which stood out because, yes, he skipped over others as well, but he gave a shout out to Marco Rubio or to Pam Bondi, who is seated across from him. He did not do the same for Kristi Noem, who typically talks about one of his favorite subjects, which is immigration. And then subsequently, when we also went in the Oval Office this afternoon, the president did not take questions there either, something that is also quite a rare occurrence for the president to not take a single question in that moment. So it did stand out to us today. I can't remember 2 instances where he's had cameras in front of him and declined to take questions before. And then he was walking the red carpet tonight with the First Lady Melania Trump and being asked about this new documentary of hers based on her that is premiering tonight. He did field some questions from reporters about the Fed chair and about Tom Homan. And I thought what he said there about the criminals and going after them and that they are not scaling back operations stood out because they have basically been trying to signal the opposite, Anderson, as you know and heard from Tom Homan today. And so that is the question of whether it was a tone shift, whether it was actually a tactical shift that was going to happen. But the president not commenting today earlier at length at all on these matters and not even bringing up Minneapolis as it has dominated the headlines during his cabinet meeting was remarkable in and of itself, Anderson.
Yeah, Caitlin Collins, thanks very much. We'll see you at the top of the hour for The Source. Joining me now as acting director during the Obama administration of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, John Sandweg, and also CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst, our very own John Miller. Appreciate both of you being with us. John, what do you make, first of all, of the president's comments this evening and what Homan's presence here certainly seems to indicate?
I think what the president is saying, I'm sorry, which John?
Sorry, John Miller. Sorry about that.
Okay. I think what the president is saying is that they're going to continue their operations within the framework that Tom Homan talked about, which is targeted against people with serious or violent criminal records. I also think there's a bit of face saving here because they've taken a couple of steps back. And one of the things, which I think we'll talk about in a minute, is there's a lot of people that they have detainers on in jail that the state and the prisons and the jails are willing to turn over if they can just get that coordinated right.
So, John Sandwig, why is that hard to coordinate?
You know, Anderson, it's not that hard to coordinate. I think there's a lot of confusion out there about what constitutes cooperation. And cooperation with state and locals can manifest itself in many forms. What Tom was focused on today in his press conference was access to the jails, right? This idea that ICE officers are not able to get into the Hennepin County jail there. But we know that there's broader cooperation. The State Department of Corrections will hand prisoners over after they complete their sentences to ICE. We know from the chief of police that there's a lot of cooperation with ICE in terms of, gang task forces or serious criminal efforts that is pretty traditional. And I'll tell you, Anderson, by experience, that even though you have some of these sanctuary jails where they say, technically, we can't give you access to the jail, in my experience, when you have more serious criminal offenders, oftentimes the sheriff will get on the phone and call the local ICE office, and lo and behold, the ICE agents are waiting there outside the jail at the moment that the individual's released. But for the moment, it seems that it's about the jail. But I'll just say one other thing, Anderson. I do think for some in the administration, when they express frustration with cooperation, I think what they want to see is some of the things you're seeing, let's say in sheriff's office down in Texas, where you have sheriff's deputies actually engaged in immigration enforcement, stopping people, making inquiries about their immigration status, and in some cases being deputized as ICE agents. I don't think we'll ever see that kind of cooperation in Minneapolis, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see something in terms of that jail access.
Yeah, John Miller, I mean, we had, the town hall last night where the mayor point blank said that sort of level of cooperation was not going to happen. I want to play, John, something else that Tom Homan said today and get your reaction. Those videos we're showing were, I guess, some handovers of people who've been incarcerated. Let's take a listen to this.
I met with a lot of people, a lot of the agents. They've been in theater. Some of these people have been in theater for 8 months. So there's going to be rotations of personnel. Hopefully less now that we have some agreements. Maybe we can make it more efficient and safe. But they've been in theater a long time. And so, there's rotations happen all the time to get people out of here and go home, get some rest and see their families.
What do you expect, John Miller, to see different? I mean, the talk is of more targeted operations. What would that actually look like? Because if that is something that's so possible to do, why wasn't that being done by Bavino and his people?
So that's a really interesting question. And the answer is because from the White House, from Mr. Miller's office in the White House, the word has been, you need to achieve these numbers, 3,000 a day. And if you're going after violent felons, that means locating them. They might be in hiding, conducting surveillance, obtaining warrants. But if you have to get 3,000 a day, that's when you're going to be hitting those Home Depot parking lots and 7-Eleven parking lots and stopping people on the street who look brown or have an accent, because you've got to make that number. And that eats into the targeting of violent felonies. When you look at their total numbers, 97% of the people, 7% of the people they're arresting have violent felony convictions. The vast majority don't have anything like that. They either have minor charges or nonviolent crimes or crimes that are long ago. But that's not what they're getting. The big dispute here, the White House is saying that Minnesota is not cooperating. Homeland Security has been saying they're not releasing these prisoners, is what the state came out with this weekend, which was startling. DHS says there's 3,061 prisoners that they have detainers on that the state isn't turning over. And the state says the actual number is 301. So they disagree by about 1,000. And what the state told us is that they notify ICE when they have an unlawful migrant in on charges. They notify ICE when they're being released after their sentence so that they can exchange them. And you know, that footage we were showing before of these exchanges going on in these garages, this is really interesting because there were two prisoners. One was Joshua Forno, the other was Meng Kong Yang. And the prison officials in the state called ICE and said they're being released, come get them. They honored the detainer. They turned them over right here in the Sally Port, gave them to the agents on January 12th. The next day, on January 13th, Homeland Security out of Washington issued a press release listing all of the violent felons they had captured, and they strongly implied that they had captured these two criminals who had been released from state custody, theoretically into the streets, and then captured by the ICE agents, which is exactly what didn't happen. They were handed over by the state prison system, the same one that the feds are claiming won't cooperate with them. So Homan's presence there, meeting with these people, getting these systems in line, should hopefully broker an agreement where they're actually getting coordinated and doing what they came to do.
Gregory Bavino, the former top border official here, broke his silence today, appearing in front of Mount Rushmore. He defended the tactics of his agents here.
I'm very proud of what you, the Mean Green Machine, are doing in Minneapolis right now, just like you've done it across the United States over these past tough 9 months. And I want you to know that you're the modern day equivalent. Turn and burn. Makes me very proud. I also want you to know that I've got your back now and always.
It's a sentiment not widely shared here, including by the woman you're about to hear from. Her name is Kayla Schultz. She is a longtime area resident, and she is speaking out for the first time about her experience with federal agents here, most dramatically the one she filmed through the window of her car that ended in the killing of Alex Preddy.
Whoa!
Kayla Schultz is speaking for the first time on camera since the killing she witnessed. I talked to her earlier. First, we want to warn you, some of the conversation has graphic language and images. What made you decide to start documenting what's happening?
Well, it's because that's all we can really do at this point. What has happened in my city is absolutely devastating to me. I have witnessed and I've seen videos of my neighbors being kidnapped, and I know that all we can really do at this point is make some noise, make our voices heard, and film them so that they don't go missing without a trace, so that we can at least record their names and try to get contact information for their family or friends so that they know what has happened to them.
Saturday morning, how did you come to be there?
I received a notification. I was already out and about, and I went there with my whistle and my phone so that I could do what little I can in order to try to protect my neighbors.
Your video is really important because it's not only a different angle on things we have seen, but you also capture things that we haven't seen in other videos. What did you see before the video?
Before the video even starts, several federal agents crossed the street to come over to my window to tell me that I was obstructing, and they would pull me out of my car and arrest me for that. I told them I wasn't obstructing anything. We exchanged some not so nice words back and forth. The last thing that federal agent who came up to my window said, and he screamed it at the top of his lungs right in my face, was that I'm a fucking
Have you ever had a law enforcement officer say anything like that?
No, absolutely not. No one's ever actually called me that word at all.
Were you scared?
I was scared, but I absolutely refuse to show them that I'm scared. I think, and we saw this in the video, that they feed off of that. They want us to be afraid, and they want us to be intimidated.
They feed off it?
Yes.
That's, in your personal experience, that's what you have seen?
Yes. I think that is one of their goals. They escalate in every single way if They are not able to use that fear in order to intimidate us into backing down.
So if you're not intimidated, they escalate.
And that's exactly what happened to Alex. He did not let them intimidate him. In fact, he stood up for two women that they were absolutely brutalizing, and that made them mad that they were not able to intimidate him into tucking his tail and leaving.
Your video shows the two women who are talking with some officers in a vehicle. They are right next to you. Those two women are also visible in Stella Carlson's video, shot from the sidewalk not far from where Kayla Schultz's car is located. On your video, there's a man in a gray tan hat, an officer who pushes one of the women.
I don't know exactly whose words were whose at that point, but he, in my opinion, is the one that instigated this.
How so?
He just seemed angry. He seemed like he wanted vengeance for I don't know what. He wanted to be the big scary guy, and he just had absolutely no control over his emotions. I saw him shoving them very violently. It was not out of self-protection, in my opinion. It was purely out of rage.
You believe that pushing was kind of the genesis of everything else that then followed?
Yeah, exactly. He was being so incredibly violent.
You briefly capture Stella Carlson, the lady in the pink jacket. You can actually see her documenting this from another, and when you compare the videos, it really gives a much more kind of rounded view of what is going on. On your video, we see the Border Patrol agent who will end up shooting Alex Preddy. We see him spraying a chemical agent on a woman, or attempting to spray a small bottle of pepper spray or something into a woman's face. And he seems to have some issue with his bottle, and he checks it. He sort of turns away and checks it for a moment. Your video actually captures the gun. Did you know that? Yeah. I hadn't realized that when I first started looking at it. It's very grainy.
One moment, there are people being pushed around, there are people being maced right in front of me. That was upsetting enough. All of a sudden, I see so many federal agents, way more than was necessary in order to take him down to the ground. The next thing I know, it's gunshots. It's so many gunshots. I couldn't believe it.
Holy shit! Oh my god! Oh!
I didn't immediately register that they were gunshots, in fact. My brain, I think, didn't want to believe it. I was hoping, praying that it was anything else but guns. I ended up looking away from my camera at that point and making out that they were holding real guns and they had just shot him.
After the shots, what do you remember?
After the shots, I saw pretty much all of them back away immediately. I was just absolutely in shock. I really have barely a recollection of the moments immediately after, other than just the feeling of absolute horror and also rage that it escalated like this.
You fucking murderer!
So they backed up, and I was sure he was dead. And then a couple of them did approach his body.
Could you see over the hood of your car, Alex, on the ground?
No, and I'm glad for that. I saw the scuffle, I saw him being taken to the ground, and I saw the guns as they were firing, but at least I didn't have to watch him die.
You continued to roll. Your camera stayed on. You hear the officer who took the gun. He comes back and at a certain point says, "I got the gun." You can hear that on your recording.
I got the gun! I got the gun!
Why did you want to talk? Come forward.
I think it's important. I went back and forth for a while about this. I expect there's to be some sort of fallout from this at some point. I expect that there will be probably ramifications to my employment, to my career, and to my safety. I expect that some people are going to try to label me as a domestic terrorist for trying to stand up for my community in what little ways that I can with my voice and with my phone recording. But it's important. This needs to be out there, and I need people to know what is going on here. I am scared of speaking out and having this public, having my face out there and my name. But if I can muster up 1% of the courage that Alex had shown there in order to maybe make some amount of change, I will. They want us, again, to be afraid of them. They want us to be scared, intimidated into silence, and we cannot. I can lose my safety, I can lose security. They can take everything away from me, but they can't take my voice.
You're scared, but you're still standing up.
Yes, I think it's so important. Now is not the time to stay silent in this for anyone at all. It's imperative. Things are going to get a lot worse, I think, not only in my city, but around this country as this project expands. And we all need to be courageous. We all need to be a little bit brave. And again, do what we can in order to stand up for our rights. I would ask that anyone who might feel compelled about any of this go to standwithminnesota.com and donate what they can in order to help us out.
Has anyone from the federal government reached out to get your witness statement?
No, not at all. I did, as soon as I could after this happened, that same day, I went to the BCA office and...
The state investigators.
Yeah, exactly. And I gave them a statement. I provided them the video that I have, but I have not been reached out to by federal investigators.
Well, we now know that Alex Preddy had a physical encounter with federal officers on January 13th, 11 days before he was shot and killed. We don't know what led to the clash, but Preddy's family confirms he is the man in the video. It shows that Preddy shows him spitting on the officer's vehicle, and as it begins to move away, he can be seen kicking the back right tail light twice, ultimately breaking it. The vehicle stops. Officers then get out and go after him. My next guest, Max Shapiro, arrived right around the same time and shot another video. He managed to speak also to Preddy once the officers left to see if he was okay.
You okay? You okay? You okay? I'm okay. I'm okay. Are we all okay? Are we all safe? We okay? Not me. Thank you. Good.
Well, I spoke with Max Shapiro earlier tonight. So what brought you to that corner?
Absolutely. As many people are, doing these days, signal chats are a very popular way to communicate. And my son's school is in the area, and we have a group parent chat. They alerted that that ICE was in the area, and I had that very paternal instinct of, if they're in the area, that I should probably be there with my 4-year-old son.
Right. I mean, obviously, you now know who Alex Preddy is. I assume at that time you did not know who he was.
No.
When did he first get your attention?
He just seemed like another observer at that moment.
Did you notice him kicking out
I did
rear
see that,
light?
but I did not get that on my video. But that is part of other videos that have circulated from that day.
What did you think of it at the time?
That was probably something that I would not have done. Is that worth the aggression that was forwarded to him? Probably not.
On your video, he's grabbed by some agents, and then you see him running away from them or being released by them. And you went up you approached him.
I did.
Can you describe that?
As the agents left and the coast was clear, I walked up to make sure he was okay. And in one hand, you can see I'm still filming. In the other hand, I have my hand around him, giving him a half hug, just asking, "Are you okay?" And immediately thereafter, very quickly, he's like, "I'm okay. Are you okay? Is everyone okay? Are we safe?"
You okay? You okay? Okay.
And in that moment, I just thought that was an incredible display of compassion and care for others. I understand that there could be folks that use this video and classify him as an agitator or, you know, somebody that was looking for trouble. My experience with him in the 30 seconds that I interacted with this person was the complete opposite of that.
Did you notice that he had the gun on it?
No, I did not, and I actually did not realize that until it was published in the Star Tribune last night. The article that I had interviewed for. I watched back the video, and I could see from other videos that it did appear that he was carrying his weapon, but from my perspective, I never caught that. I looked back at mine, and I did see one clip of him. You could see it tucked in his belt. But
yeah, it seems like the officers didn't notice it either. I mean, they certainly didn't remark on it.
No.
When you realize, oh, that's the guy. I mean, after Mr. Petty was killed on Saturday, how quickly did you realize that was him?
I got the news after scrolling through, CNN and other media channels that happened. It wasn't until about the early afternoon that I realized it was him, and that was a result of seeing still frames and putting two and two together at that point. So it was, you know, you have the grief of, oh, this happened again, and then the realization that I have a personal touch point with this, which makes it that much more real.
It's a strange feeling, it must be.
It's heavy. It's very heavy.
As a parent here, what's that like?
I worry for my family, but you know, Minnesota has shown that it is very resilient.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
A new plan for Trump's immigration crackdown in Minneapolis, straight from his border czar, Tom Homan. Welcome to Lead. I'm Phil Mattingly in for Jake Tapper. We start in our national lead, where we are learning more about how the Trump administration's approach to immigration enforcement might actually shift. Now, today, White House border czar Tom Homan outlined a new plan for operations in Minnesota. This plan after days of backlash over federal agents shooting and killing protester Alex Preddy in Minneapolis. Homan ordered federal immigration authorities to work on an eventual drawdown plan for law enforcement in the city and said the operations will be more targeted.
Targeted, strategic enforcement operations. That's traditionally been the case, and that's where we're going. That's what we're going to continue to do and improve upon that. With a prioritization on public safety threats. We are not surrendering the president's mission on immigration enforcement. Let's make that clear. Prioritization of criminal aliens doesn't mean that we forget about everybody else. That's just simply ridiculous.
Now, the administration is also considering new guidelines for federal immigration officers in Minnesota, including plans to avoid engaging with, quote, agitators. That is according to sources. Now, in terms of the investigation into the deadly shooting of Alex Preddy, federal authorities blocked Minnesota state officials from seeing any evidence or being part of the investigation. But today, state officials say they are hopeful they can reach an agreement with federal law enforcement. Well, in Minneapolis, CNN's Anderson Cooper spoke with a key witness in the Alex Preddy shooting. Kayla Schultz was in the vehicle closest to the shooting. I'm going to play some of her remarks to Anderson.
I am scared of speaking out and having this public, having my face out there and my name. But if I can muster up 1% of the courage that Alex had shown there in order to maybe make some amount of change, I will. They want us, again, to be afraid of them. They want us to be scared, intimidated into silence. I can lose my safety. I can lose security. They can take everything away from me, but they can't take my voice. And they want us to be intimidated.
They feed off it.
They escalate in every single way if they are not able to use that fear in order to intimidate us into backing down.
So if you're not intimidated, they escalate.
And that's exactly what happened to Alex. He did not let them intimidate him. In fact, he stood up for two women that they were absolutely brutalizing, and that made them mad that they were not able to intimidate him into tucking his tail and leaving.
Your camera is actually the closest camera to that moment of the Border Patrol guy shoving these women onto the sidewalk, but it's the closest, and you have the closest vantage point of them being pepper sprayed.
One moment, there are people being pushed around, there are people being maced right in front of me. The next thing I know, it's gunshots.
Oh my God! Oh!
It's so many gunshots, I couldn't believe it. I really have barely a recollection of the moments immediately after, other than just the feeling of absolute horror and also rage that it escalated like this. So they backed up, and I was sure he was dead.
You're scared, but you're still standing up.
Yes, I think it's so important. Now is not the time to stay silent in this for anyone at all. It's imperative. Things are going to get a lot worse, I think, not only in my city, but around this country as this project expands. And we all need to be courageous. We all need to be a little bit brave. And again, do what we can in order to stand up for our rights.
Now you can see much more of Anderson's interview on AC360 tonight at 8 Eastern right here on CNN. Well, here now to discuss is Democratic Senator Peter Welch of Vermont. Senator, really appreciate your time. Just to start with what we saw this morning from Tom Homan, his press conference, the clear tonal shift and messaging shift from the administration over the last couple of days that has led into this morning. How much faith do you have that there will be an actual policy shift on the ground?
None. They are committed to this mass roundup. I mean, this is really at the heart of the problem. There's three things in border policy. One is a secure border. We support that. Two is deporting criminals. We support that. But the third agenda, the Stephen Miller agenda, the Kristi Noem agenda, is these roving patrols, the mass roundup, going to schools, going to daycare centers, going to farms, going to construction sites, and then having roving bands that we've seen in Minneapolis. And also what they saw, and what we all saw, America saw, was the excesses where you have untrained people pulling their gun, 2 people killed. So I do not see them talking about changing their policy. I see them reacting to the horror that Americans experienced when they saw those 2 videos of those 2 citizens being killed by ICE.
Which I think raises some of the concern that I've heard from some of your colleagues about the legislative debate that's currently going on Capitol Hill, which is there is a package of 6 spending bills. One of them is a Homeland Security bill. Democrats have made clear they will not vote for the package of 6 spending bills as long as the DHS bill is in there, and they want to negotiate on restrictions that they can place or governors that they can place on some of the policy actions the Trump administration has taken. Part of that would be you need a continuing resolution, kind of keep levels flat for a period of time. There's been a talk about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks. Where do you stand on that?
Well, first of all, let me explain what it is. We should separate out the Homeland Security bill so that all of us are accountable. That's number one. Number two, we should have a debate on these policies. There is no restrictions and no constraints, especially with Noem turning a blind eye to what's going on and blaming the victim. So my view is that it should be separated. We can have government proceed and stay open. There were 5 bills that were negotiated on a bipartisan basis, let them be passed. Then we have a debate on Homeland Security. We should have as short of an extension as possible, because all of us know that we should be standing up and debating on things that are going to protect American citizens from the abuse of authority by the Kristi Noem ICE operation.
House Democrats are talking about moving forward, or trying to move forward on impeachment of Secretary Noem. Is that something you want them to do? You'd like to come over to the Senate?
You know, honestly, I think Noem should resign. You know, she's lost the confidence of law enforcement. She's lost the confidence of the American people. And I think if she should step up and acknowledge that what she did was really wrong and she has not provided the training. And then I think the cruelest thing was when these two people were shot. A 37-year-old mother of three, a 37-year-old ICU nurse. She said they were domestic terrorists. You know, every law enforcement person I speak to in Vermont is horrified about what they're witnessing and the lack of accountability. So the right thing is for her to resign. I would support impeachment. We don't have the votes for that, but I think Noem should resign.
On the policy debate that seems to be forthcoming in large part because the White House was willing to accede to Democrats saying, you got to strip the DHS piece out. We need to talk about restrictions as you're laying out in a less procedural manner than I did, which I appreciate. As a former Capitol Hill reporter, sometimes I have bad habits. But I got to admit, I'm surprised that they were willing to have conversations about taking apart a 6-bill package, about taking out the one bill that they, I think, policy-wise, care about more than any other. Were you surprised?
There's yeah, I was, frankly, but there's two things. Number one, the Democrats stood very firm. We just aren't going to tolerate this. Number two, it's very clear the people of the country, of America, were shocked. I mean, all of us saw those videos, and those shootings were completely without merit. And so I think the president has very good political antenna in the combination of Democratic unity and the reaction of the American people at the horror. This is not what they signed up for. American people do want a secure border. They do want criminals to be deported, but they don't want these mass roundups, and they don't want these lawless tactics by ICE where they are in mask. They are heavily armed, and they are not accountable like the law enforcement agencies in all of our states and in all of our communities. So the president, I think, has figured that out.
It's been an extraordinary couple of days. You guys appear to be on the precipice of a very serious and significant debate on DHS policies, the policies that you've been detailing. It will be fascinating to watch going forward. Senator, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Look ahead here on The Lead. In the wake of all the turmoil in Minnesota, Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar is launching a bid to become the state's governor.
Regime's brutal crackdown on protests and airports in Asia are screening for the Nipah virus. We'll bring you the latest on this potentially deadly disease. And we do have breaking news just into CNN. The Senate Democratic leadership says a bipartisan funding deal has now been reached to avoid a government shutdown. Senate Republicans are now trying to set up a vote for Thursday. Democrats had asked for a 2-week stopgap funding extension for the Department of Homeland Security over what is, of course, the tense situation in Minnesota. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Greg Stanton of Arizona, and I'll put that question to you. Have you heard about this deal, and what can you tell us about it?
Oh, I have heard about the deal. As you know, they took an earlier vote today on the entire package and did not have enough support in the United States Senate to pass. So I understand what they're planning on doing is separating out the Homeland Security appropriations portion of it, voting on all the non-controversial ones and let them pass, and potentially a short-term continuing resolution so that we can actually build accountability measures into that bill before it gets finally passed.
You know, you said it yourself. It's a stopgap. It's temporary. This buys everyone some time. Is this a real win? Do you think you're going to get meaningful reform from this?
Yes, we have to get meaningful reform and accountability. The American people rightfully are demanding that after they've seen this violence against our fellow American citizens in Minnesota. 2 of our fellow citizens were shot and killed by ICE, an unaccountable ICE. They wear the face mask so their identities aren't known. They're not wearing the body cameras that they should be. They don't follow the warrant procedures that are appropriate. They don't have a code of conduct. We need independent investigation. I'm a former mayor of a major city. All of the accountability measures that we'd expect from a local police department, these people are carrying guns on the streets of America. They need to have the same level of accountability.
Yes, Congressman, you are the former mayor of a large city, Phoenix, I believe. You're also a trained lawyer. So I do want to ask you, when it comes to accountability and actually changing the tactics, because remember, whether you're in the community or outside of the community, outside looking in, the federal government continues to say that local and state authorities are not cooperating. When you parse it as a politician and as a lawyer, are they cooperating? Would that help take down the temperature anyway?
Well, so look, the Obama administration did a significant amount of immigration actions and deportations. They didn't have this type of issues that you're seeing with this unaccountable ICE in American cities. So regardless of whether in Minneapolis or Chicago or any state across or any city across the United States of America, regardless, they need to act in a professional way with accountability. So that means masks off, body cams on. That's what the American people expect. When you engage in violence, there needs to be independent investigation. That's not for legal reasons. That's so the American people have confidence that the investigation will be thorough and fair. There needs to be a code of conduct. Obviously, training needs to be significantly ratcheted up if they're going to do business like this among the American people. American people do not have confidence that these ICE agents or even Border Patrol agents, when they're acting in American streets, are trained for the duty for which they are acting.
I do want to turn to the bipartisan demands for Secretary Kristi Noem's impeachment. I mean, this deal doesn't call for that at all. This is not the first time you've called for the president to fire her. Last year, you cited a report finding FEMA violated federal law 6 times under her management. You know, I don't have to remind you, the president backs her. Do you think you have any hope of getting to impeachment with her?
Well, we shouldn't have to get to impeachment. The president should have already fired Kristi Noem. She has no business running any kind of law enforcement organization. You know, she also oversees FEMA. There was a terrible flood in Texas, you remember, last summer. Over 100 people died. A lot of young girls at the camp died. FEMA waited 3 days before they even began search and rescue efforts. And that was incredibly poor leadership by Kristi Noem. There is no doubt in my mind that her inaction, her unwillingness to roll up her sleeves and get FEMA involved earlier likely cost lives in Texas. I called for her termination then. She should have been gone. She's not equipped. She doesn't have the experience. She doesn't have the leadership capacity to lead this organization. So she should be gone now. And if the president won't do it, Congress is going to have to do it for him via impeachment.
And do you believe, though, that that would go through? I mean, obviously, she survived this far. Do you believe you could actually get her impeached?
Yeah, I think there's you're seeing more and more Republicans speak out, trying to tell the president that Kristi Noem is not competent to run this position. Every duty she's had, whether it be FEMA or now the situation with ICE and even the Border Patrol, she's failed to show real leadership, to understand that they needed to do significantly more training, that wearing the face mask would do more harm than good. I mean, law enforcement, local law enforcement around the country, they don't go around with masks on their face. They're part of the community. That's not a way to do law enforcement in this country. So more and more, even Republicans are saying what is obviously true. The American people can see right through it. Kristi Noem has got to go. Obviously, now there's finger pointing going on in the White House, where she's blaming Stephen Miller, told her that he's the one that instructed her to call Mr. Preddy, who was killed by the Border Patrol on the streets of Minneapolis, called him a domestic terrorist. What a horrific, horrific thing to do without having done any type of investigation. That's just a complete and total failure of leadership.
Yeah, and a reminder for viewers, Stephen Miller is the Deputy Chief of Staff and has said that he is driving a lot of what the immigration program looks like for the Trump administration. I do want to get back to what happens after this temporary stopgap measure. So Tom Homan is framing right now on the ground in Minnesota that there will be this drawdown plan. And a lot of that does involve, and it hinges on that cooperation that I asked you about earlier between local, state officials and the federal government. I am wondering if we look to deals down the road in the next few weeks, are you serious about trying to get some of the funding that's currently with Homeland Security to some of those local authorities? I know the numbers that we've touted before on CNN as well, that like if you take Minneapolis, there are about 600 law enforcement officials, and ICE brought in apparently 3,000 people in order to continue with these ICE operations.
Well, look, if the president continues with these mass deportation policies, that is, the American people overwhelmingly say that's not what they wanted. But the president ran on a policy of going after violent criminals. That's not what we're seeing in practice. And if that's the case, of course, local law enforcement's not going to participate. If they want to help to apprehend a violent criminal, well, of course, local law enforcement is going to help get a violent criminal off the streets. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing these mass deportation policies. I'm sponsoring a bill that would redirect the money that was given to ICE as part of the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill and redirect it to local law enforcement. We could hire over 200,000 local police officers with that money. And our local police departments are really needing to beef up their staffing. Many of them are understaffed, including in my city in Phoenix. That would really help to get our local law enforcement up to full staffing. I know the American people would support that for sure.
Yeah, and as you point out, it is tough in these cities, and the overtime bills really is something that's difficult to account for when you have an issue like this, and then you have law enforcement working those long hours. Congressman Greg Stanton, glad for you to be with us, especially as we have the breaking news. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And we do want to get back to that breaking news. The Senate Democratic leader says a deal has been reached to avoid a government shutdown. Kevin Liptak has been following all of this for us from the White House. I mean, Kevin, we had heard that really the president was instrumental in at least getting this kind of delay. What more are you learning?
Yeah, and the president had actually tried to invite some of these Democrats to the White House this week to talk about how to keep the government funded. They didn't end up doing that, but it does appear now as if a plan is at least in place to try and avert a shutdown. What it would do is separate out funding for 4 of the agencies, pass those funding bills, and then have a 2-week extension of the Department of Homeland Security funding, which has obviously been the point of contention as Democrats work to enact reforms to that agency, holding up the funding there. Now, this isn't the end of the road. What we understand is that the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, will have to get his Republican caucus on board with this plan. It's not clear that all of the Republicans are yet ready to vote for this. And of course, it will then have to go to the House, and House Speaker Mike Johnson will have to bring the House back in and get all of them behind this plan in order for those agencies to keep their funding. So a lot of unknowns at this point, but certainly clearly progress made towards keeping the government funding open. And it does seem as if the administration's pivot in how they're dealing with Minneapolis seems to have propelled this forward. You have seen a degree of conciliation by the president in sending Tom Homan to Minneapolis and bringing out Greg Bovino. And Homan's remarks today suggesting that there could be a way to reduce the number of federal officers there. And so you do see a level of cooperation, even as tensions remain extraordinarily high, even as the temperature hasn't necessarily been lowered in the rhetoric coming from the White House and the president. Clearly, I think on Capitol Hill, there is a sense that there is a way forward here. And this funding bill, I think, is an indication that they're trying to find some of these compromises in order to, move all of this ahead.
Yeah, and all sides seem to have determined that even a partial government shutdown is not in their interest at this hour. Kevin Liptak, grateful to you. Appreciate it. Now, White House border czar Tom Homan, as Kevin was just saying, is under pressure to ease tensions after the killings of 2 protesters by federal agents. He said in Minneapolis today that the number of immigration officers could be reduced.
When the violence decreases, we can draw down those resources. But based on the discussions I've had with the governor and the AG, we can start drawing down those resources as far as those looking for public safety threats being released, and do it in the jail with much less people. So the drawdown is going to happen based on these agreements. But the drawdown can happen even more if the hateful rhetoric and the impediment and interference will stop.
So Homan, as you know, was sent to Minnesota after Saturday's fatal shooting of Alex Pretty and also vowed to stay in the state until, quote, the problem is gone. Now, all this comes amid reports of new guidance that the Trump administration is considering for federal agents, including plans to avoid engaging with what it calls agitators. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey speaking at the Conference of Mayors in Washington today. Listen.
We recognize that one great American city is experiencing an invasion. That is an invasion on our democracy, on our republic, and on each and every one of us. And the fact that you all are standing up means the world.
Shimon Prokupez is in Minneapolis for us. A lot going on Capitol Hill, but I am wondering on the ground there, if hour by hour there seems to be a little bit of hope, because as you were telling us before, when they see what's going on in Washington and the fact that it does seem to be compromised, do they believe that that's going to translate into what they see from ICE agents on the street?
Yeah, perhaps. The thing is, for people who live here, I mean, they've been through hell, certainly the last few months, and they're just hoping that they can get back to going to restaurants without doors being locked and going to supermarkets without being afraid that they're going to get stopped and questioned about their citizenship. So, you know, right now it's very cold here, so we're not seeing as many people certainly out in the street. As the temperatures start to rise, we'll start seeing more people come out. And I think the activity around Minneapolis has certainly decreased, the federal law enforcement activity. We're not seeing sort of any signs that, like what we were seeing last week and the weeks before. And the significant thing here being that Greg Bovino, who was running this entire operation, many people felt, including the police chief who I spoke to the other day, felt that they were escalating situations just in the way that their tactics, the tactics they were using, the way they were driving around in large convoys, drawing attention to themselves. They feel that right now, at least, that seems to have decreased, and we'll see if that continues. But I think the way Homan expressed himself today, to say we're not surrendering, that we're going to keep doing this immigration work. ICE is not going to leave this city. They're going to continue their operations, but I think they're going to go back to doing it the way they used to do it, quietly, more targeted, with surveillance, and in ways where they don't draw attention. I mean, just if they did it at 6 in the morning instead of noon, or 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, as we saw in the Alex Pretty incident just around the corner from us, changing those tactics and doing things a little differently and de-escalating should bring a level, at least a more measured approach to this, and should also decrease some of the protests that we're seeing. The observers, I mean, they're on watch here. These observers are not stopping. They're still, you know, I'm following them in the chat rooms, and they're still out here looking for cars and observing and very suspicious of certain type of vehicles. So I think locally the nerves are going to continue. People are going to continue to worry that they're going to come back. No one believes that this is totally over. I mean, there's a lot of concern that this is going to continue.
Mm-hmm. Said we have to see proof of concept on the street, right? Given what we see, what we see politically. Shimon, grateful to you. Thanks so much. Still ahead for us, iPhone frenzy. Apple sales says its new models are off the charts. The latest on Apple's quarterly results and its sales rebound in China. We'll have that next.
저에게 아름다움은 단순히 외모뿐만 아니라 나답게 살아가는 태도인 것 같아요. 저는 크리에이터이자 배우, 그리고 운동을 사랑하는 사람입니다. 처음에 신체를 단련하려고 운동을 시작했지만 그 과정에서
Trump silent on his top issue as polls show his crackdown in Minnesota taking a toll. Today, the president holding his first cabinet meeting of the year. And this cabinet meeting is unlike any of the others because they all have had a lot in common. The border and immigration issue was barely mentioned, so that was different to start with. And then there was the really big difference. One thing that happens that usually never happens at these sorts of meetings.
Mr. President, why not take questions? Mr. President, one question. Why not take questions?
He didn't take questions. I gotta say, this president loves to take questions. You gotta give him credit for that. He likes to, but today, nothing. Cayete. And not just at that meeting. Just a short time ago, he again refused to take questions after an event in the Oval Office.
Thank you, please. Thank you.
Mr. President, can you respond to the new Fox poll that says people think ICE's tactics are too aggressive?
Trump is someone who for years has used these types of events to take control of the narrative. And often to say, yeah, people who think this looks bad, I'm going to own it and show you that you've got it completely backwards. And what you think makes me look bad makes me look good. Not this time. And he didn't even try to shift the nation's attention to a different story. He didn't do it. In fact, normally at a cabinet meeting, we'd also hear something else. We would hear from every single person in the room. There'd be the special go-around, you know, the one where they thank Trump for his leadership. But again, we did not hear this. And we did not hear it from the woman tapped to carry out Trump's immigration orders, Kristi Noem.
Thank you for giving me a very interesting job. You are a great American. You kept the hurricanes away, so we appreciate that. So thank you for letting us get up every day and have a purpose. Well, sir, thank you for your leadership. Well, Mr. President, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to work for you. You made this country safe. You opened up the economy. You enforced the law. You've saved this country billions of dollars.
So with your leadership, Mr. President, I couldn't be more honored to serve.
So those were all the other times that Kristi Noem has been in the room and she's had those kinds of things to say. Well, today she didn't say a word, not a word, none of those profligate praises. She was snubbed by the president, who purposely chose not to call on her and several other cabinet members to speak. Also absent today was Trump's top aide, Stephen Miller. And while Miller does not always attend the cabinet meetings, his absence was felt in the context, again, of the moment, that he just took the rare step of actually acknowledging a mistake when it comes to the administration's immigration crackdown in Minneapolis, a crackdown that has led to the deaths of Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good. And today, the man who is now in charge of Minnesota claiming he is drawing things down.
My main focus now is drawdown. Yes, I said it. Draw down the number of people here.
Okay, that, you got to say, take some courage to just go out and eat crow and say, I'm just going to do it, okay? And he's the one doing it. He doesn't have any problem doing it. Homan stepping up to the plate there. That was welcome news to the people of Minnesota. But do they believe it?
We've had good and productive meetings with both President Trump as well as the border czar Homan. And what I will say is I will believe it when I see it.
Now, while Homan is talking about a drawdown, and again, you heard Mayor Fry, he'll believe it when he sees it, so let's see what happens. But the words are very, very different now. The escalatory rhetoric, though, belongs to the man Homan replaced, Gregory Bavino, who, this is pretty incredible. He's speaking out again, breaking his silence after he got kicked out, releasing a video which he can't post on his own social media accounts because the administration took away his access, okay? So he found a way to post it, and Bavino is standing in front of Mount Rushmore in the video. He claims the four men carved into the mountain are the, quote, original turn and burn, which is the saying that Bavino has used to describe his agents' rapid aggressive tactics. And then Bavino went on to say this.
I'm very proud of what you, the Mean Green Machine, are doing in Minneapolis right now, just like you've done it across the United States over these past tough 9 months. And I want you to know that you're the modern day equivalent. Turn and burn. Makes me very proud. I also want you to know that I've got your back now and always.
Shimon Pokipez is on the ground in Minneapolis. And Shimon, Bavino, obviously, I could see your reaction to that. So he's long gone, out at Mount Rushmore doing that. And there you are on the ground where Homan is promising to draw down. What are you learning? I mean, what's the impact of that? Do people believe it? Is it happening?
I mean, they're skeptical, Aaron. Is it happening? Yes, there is some indication based on the chats that I've been following of the observers, right? People like Renee Good, people like Alex Preti, these observers. You go in these chat rooms and you see that there's not as much activity. There's still some. People here are very paranoid, understandably. They're still living with a lot of fear because they don't believe what the government is telling them. It's a complete turnaround. You know, I was in that press conference with Homan today, and it was a complete turnaround. They had a week of where Bovino became truly the face of this operation here, and where he defended every tactic and told us how proud he was, and he defended the officers that were all part of it. And today, Homan comes in and says, you know what, maybe everything wasn't perfect, and so we're going to de-escalate. And that's what the people here want, and they're hoping that continues. It's been a very cold week here. Next week's supposed to start to warm up a little bit. Tomorrow there's going to be some protest activity. Look, people right now here, Aaron, you could just feel it. They're in mourning. They want to get back to living their lives. Restaurant doors are closed. People don't go to supermarkets. Kids are not going to school. They are hopeful that this will end, and we'll see what happens. You know, they are optimistic, let's say, for now, Aaron.
I guess it's not a feeling, though, that they've had a lot of recently, so it is a place to start.
That's right.
But we'll see what actually happens, you know, what drawdown means. All right, Shimon Prokupecz on the ground in Minneapolis. Thank you very much, and everyone's here with me. So, Essie, you know, I guess let's just start with Secretary Noem. All right, so, I mean, this is an incredibly rare moment. Let's just be honest in this administration. Every single time anything has gone wrong, it has been double down, triple down, up the ante. Yep. The fact that Homan is eating crow for the administration, they had to put him there. Bovino is whatever. Yep. And then Noem doesn't get called on. Miller's not at the meeting. And all these things taken together could mean something. But what do you think about the fact that Trump doesn't even take questions?
Yeah, it's interesting because when Trump is against the ropes and in the middle of a really bad news cycle he can't get out of, he has a tell. He does this two-step combo of hold a cabinet meeting where everyone's going to praise him and do a social media blitz. He did that last night. You showed footage from a December 2nd cabinet meeting. The same day, he did a 180 post social media blitz. It soothes his soul.
180?
180 posts.
Wow.
It was the most he'd ever done on December 2nd. Because it soothes his soul. He thinks distracts, rejiggers the news cycle. And I think that's what the social media blitz last night and this cabinet meeting was about. But the not going to Kristi Noem, not taking questions, putting Tom Homan in, getting rid of Bovino. The question is this a PR move or is it a tactical change? You can't just, I think they think maybe we can just do the PR move. So we have the appearance of changing course, but we're still going to do what we want to do. That's not going to fly. We have to see if there's actual action behind what Tom Homan is saying. Is he going to coordinate with Dem lawmakers and law enforcement? We've got to see.
Right. And Tom Homan obviously is someone with a long and respected career, right, Max? So that's important that he's there as opposed to some of the other characters that have been involved. What do you think, though, about Trump's behavior? I mean, for him alone, and I'm not saying this to be funny or trite, but for him to not go around the room and get the praise. He does that publicly. I know people who have been in private small group meetings with him. He demands it in every one of those too. This is different.
It's different because Trump realizes that the country is waking up to the craziness that is his administration and specifically their immigration policies. You know, Trump put such extreme people in charge here, from Stephen Miller to the head of the Border Patrol, who we just saw the video from, that Tom Homan looks like a progressive liberal right now. Tom Homan, the guy that said he wants to do raids in every city to arrest every undocumented immigrant, irrespective of their criminal background, even just for being there peacefully in their own home. That Tom Homan now looks liberal compared to Trump's policies.
He doesn't look liberal, but at least he looks competent.
At the very least, he's being celebrated because the rest of the crazies are not in charge.
Yes, he is being celebrated, yes.
So, but what people are waking up to is that Donald Trump built a paramilitary force to wage a forever war in American cities. He doesn't have to use the National Guard any longer. He doesn't have to use the active duty because he has this unprecedented paramilitary force that bends to his will and bends to Stephen Miller's will. We have never seen something like that in this country, and the American people are rightfully revolting against it.
So, Laura Jadid, you're there, and you've been writing about ICE, obviously, so many incredible articles, including the fact that you almost got hired by ICE, right? I mean, when you were talking about their hiring practices. So you're on the ground in Minneapolis tonight. When we are talking here about Tom Homan, and he's there talking about that drawdown, how do people see it? Is he seen as the liberal, the adult in the room?
People are concerned about ICE conducting raids. As long as ICE is conducting raids, they're going to resist. And when ICE stops conducting raids, they'll go back to everyday life, which everyone I've spoken to would really, really like to do. And I got to say, I mean, I watched Tom Homan's speech, and while his tone was different, and I don't want to downplay the fact that he actually admitted a mistake and that Bovino being replaced is the first time Trump's done that in his second term, his rhetoric wasn't actually that different than Bovino's. He admitted something had been wrong, but he wouldn't say what, despite a lot of questioning about it. He spent more time talking about prosecuting people who are constitutionally resisting ICE's efforts in this city than he did about prosecuting the people who murdered Alex Preddy or Renee Good. And for me, the most telling thing was when he referred to Minneapolis as a theater. He talked about how ICE agents were rotating in and out of theater. That is the word you use for a war zone. That is not, this is an American city. This is Minneapolis, Minnesota. To use that word, I think, really betrays the way they're looking at it. And they can use a reasonable tone of voice all they want and talk in a slow and somber tone and admit to generic mistakes and not specify what they are. But the actual words haven't changed that much. And I think people on the ground are going to believe it when they see it. They hear the words, and the tone, I don't think, is hitting.
Well, that's the big question, SC, because when Tom Homan talked about the drawdown, to Laura's point, let me just play what he said about the mistakes. Okay, here he is.
President Trump and I, along with others in the administration, have recognized that certain improvements could and should be made. That's exactly what I'm doing here.
Right, so he as Laura is saying, he didn't then go through to detail any of those things.
No, and she's right, he didn't sound all that different. Look, Trump is being pulled in two directions. On the one hand, he has Republican lawmakers in an election year begging him to change course. He's got right-wing media saying, this is a PR nightmare, you might want to reconsider this action. But his base still very much wants the action. They'll sit through a PR bait and switch, the window dressing, but they still want these operations to continue. And Trump is very aware of that. So he's got, folks like Stephen Miller pushing him to the far right. I think Susie Wiles in the White House is trying to nudge him toward a better strategy. I think Tom Homan is kind of in the middle of all of this, trying to bridge all the divides and gaps. He can't go farther and give detail and say more than what, Trump is willing to say, but he does want to appear to be taking the temperature down.
Well, also, I mean, the bar has moved, Max. Let's just be honest, of what people will accept, right? It has. Sure. I mean, this is happening in cities around the country, right? Minnesota's just one. I mean, it's happening in other cities, in many other states, even as we speak, right? And people have, in a sense, but societally accepted some of this.
Well, I don't know if that's true, because ICE has completely lost the trust of the American people. Right now, the American people don't look at ICE as law enforcement like we look at our police officers who are there to keep communities safe. They're looking at ICE, and I believe this is justified, as an unprecedented paramilitary force that does not serve a public safety purpose. And so long as that is the case, irrespective of wherever ICE goes, it will not be civil. It will not be embraced by communities. It certainly won't be embraced by local elected leaders, and it will continue to be to